more permanent than the ones that people have who are climbing, because all the stuff for the mountaineers is airlifted to these camps. So they also have a lot better food than climbers because they don't have to worry about weight. So they get, you know, frozen pot stickers and salmon burgers and stuff. Yeah, become friends with the Rangers. That's a good survival skill. All right, so team number one.
I don't like this one. On the climb from Windy Corner to Basin Camp, you realize you have more fuel than you need. You try to give it away to other expeditions, but no one takes it. In order to lighten your load, you decide to throw it in a crevasse. A ranger sees this and you are fined for illegal littering.
Team number one.
Bam, bam,
Not
bam.
bad.
We paid attention during orientation.
You'll never be invited back.
Seriously. So the Mountaineering Rangers are not just up there for medical reasons. They're also patrolling, making sure that people follow the rules, like packing out all of your trash. Team number one decided to be sneaky though and try to unload some of their extra weight in a crevasse. So Ranger caught them doing that.
How much was the fine?
I'll take
This is always.
I'll take that one. And then here's the new one.
So that's yours.
How much is the fine?
It depends on how much garbage we're talking about.
Okay.
If it's just a little bit of litter, it's a couple $100. But we had one case a couple years ago where a climbing group left one of those black garbage bags with like a bunch of garbage on top of the garbage bag. But they were nice enough to leave us a Walmart receipt with their name on them. So we were able to find them again. And in that case, since it was so much trash, it's like considered defacing federal lands. So in that case, that's a couple $1,000s, and if you're found guilty, you're not allowed within a national park for 3 years. So that one's pretty hefty.
Is that per person or the team?
Yeah.
Fine.
I'm sure it was for the team because it's kind of a group responsibility there.
Sure.
All right, team number two.
You cross a narrow snow bridge as you travel past Windy Corner. Suddenly your sled falls into a crevasse on one side of the snow bridge. As your sled dangles there, tugging you toward the abyss, you hope that nothing falls out of the sled and enter the end of the track that you charged by the ranger. Luckily, you recover your sled and make it safe to the basin camp. You're exhausted and looking forward to a few days rest.
All right. So you guys had a close call there, but managed to get yourself out of the crevasse and keep going. So, just going to pass out a picture of what Basin Camp looks like. The two tents in the picture are the medical tents that we set up there. But you guys are going to be heading up to your last camp now, which is High Camp. This is also the last spot on the mountain where we have the Mountaineering Ranger Station. Since they've been on the mountain for a few weeks, by the time they get up to High Camp, they're very used to the altitude when they're stationed here. And if the weather is decent enough, they're cross-country skiing around, patrolling, making sure that everyone's doing all right. So, let's see how team number one does at 17,000 feet.
A lot of this stuff sounds like very poor judgment.
Well, the bad thing about this game is it makes it sound like everybody's falling into crevasses left and right and everything's going wrong all at once. Basically, we just want you, like when you're playing this game, to realize the potential dangers of the mountain.
Right.
But
I mean,
you know,
ignoring advice again, leaving your litter up there when you've been told, and it should be obvious, it's not some, I mean,
all these things that are coming up are things that do potentially happen, but the majority of climbers who do this route are very, very experienced and they follow the rules and they don't get hurt. That's the typical one, but that'd be a very boring game. So you gotta have everything go wrong, so.
What's the percentage that actually finishes the climb?
That make it to the summit?
Yeah.
Most years, only about half of climbers make it, and this is mostly because, they'll be climbing the mountain, and then at some point, a huge storm will come in. So they'll be stuck in their tent for days and days, and eventually they realize that they don't have enough supplies to keep going up, and they just need to start descending. So it's not because they're inexperienced or anything like that.
So if they could arrange an airlift of food, they could keep going.
The other way.
They could, however, most of Denali is in designated wilderness area, which means that you can't drive a vehicle or fly over it. The exception is our search and rescue helicopter because, I mean, that's
Right.
important, saving people. So basically, base camp is where it is because the wilderness area line is like right here. So that's like as far as the planes can take people.
But the mountain rangers get their food flown in, right?
They're the exception because
Yeah,
they're there
they
for
work
safety
there.
reasons. So we do make exceptions, but we're not gonna,
Right.
let some rich guy have his plane on.
That's not what Donald Trump says. That's not what Donald Trump says.
Well, I doubt he would find this. All right.
So basin camp to high camp. Today the temperature drops to -40 with hazardous high winds. You begin to question whether or not your expedition is prepared for these conditions. Should I read the rest?
Yeah,
Were you asked whether to stop and rewarm your hands at Windy Corner?
you guys were not asked, so now I'll just read the no part of the card.
Okay. You decide to persevere, knowing you've brought the right gear for the conditions. Your expedition revives itself with rest, warm fluids, and a hot meal.
All right, so team number 1 is doing pretty good at 17,000 feet, and you guys are gonna try your summit push tomorrow. So,
Really, they don't rest a couple days after that?
well, that card said that they're doing good,
Okay.
so they're gonna keep going. It's really individually how people are doing.
Okay, basin camp to high camp. Lucky you, the weather has been great. Your team has climbed safely and gradually, and you enjoy a rest day at high camp where it's sunny and clear and a beautiful 10 below zero. Your summit pack is loaded and you are ready for the final push tomorrow.
All right, so it sounds like both you guys are ready. So what you're gonna do is leave most of your stuff set up at high camp, and then climbers will leave with just a pack of emergency essentials. So they'll bring with them emergency shelter, sleeping bag, sleeping pad, food, all this just in case they get caught in bad weather while they're out there. So the route to the peak and back takes about 8 to 12 hours. So technically it's a day hike, but it's a very intense one because there's only about half as much oxygen in the air at the summit as there is at sea level. So it's very tiring. And I always get asked, after climbing for 2 to 3 weeks to get to the top, how much time are you actually at the summit? Answer is 20 minutes to half an hour. So it's a lot of work for a very small window where you're at the top of North America. But what climbers will do is if they do make it to the top, they'll bring with them their summit flag. So all of these flags on the ceiling right here are flags that were designed by climbing groups and they bring with them. And so if they make it to the summit, they'll hold it up for their picture, and then sometimes they let us keep them. So this is just a very small section with what we've got in our collection. But now that you guys have all made it to high camp, let's see if you guys are able to bring your summit flag up to the top.
Does the whole team get to the top normally?
Normally it's everybody or nobody, because it's mostly weather conditions. Occasionally we'll get like one person in a group who's got high altitude sickness, so sometimes they'll decide to just leave that guy at a camp and try to keep going.
Okay.
So if you get up there and it's not that, there's a lot of clouds and stuff like that, would you come back down to high camp and do it again so you can have a great view, or would just, you get all that wind and you gotta see a bunch of clouds?
I mean, I'm sure that just depends on conditions and whether you actually have enough supplies to do something like that. I don't think most people do that.
It's the thrill, it's the thrill of, it's
You're the first person to ask me that.
I'm sure they've seen a lot of views along the way.
Well, I've got the news, guys. It's bad news.
Uh-oh.
For 3 days, we're forced to stay at high camp by hazardous high winds above. We're forced to descend without climbing.
Well, we've gained experience and it should be a
Usually only
shoe-in
about half
next
the people
time.
make it to the summit, and it wasn't because you guys didn't put in enough effort. It's just because The weather on Denali was not cooperating with you. So let's see if team number 2 is a bit more successful.
Let's do it.
Bring us home.
Does the average climber lose weight on this trip? What's the average weight loss? Do you know? Anybody know?
I'm not sure about average weight loss. It kind of depends on the person.
But
I
do
know
they-
for our mountaineering rangers, like most of them do not have any fat on their bodies, so
No.
they look pretty much the same when they come back. But one of our mountaineering rangers is a bigger guy, and it's pretty noticeable when he gets off the mountain. So it really just depends on your body. And I don't ask them how much they weigh, so I don't know how much that is.
I just thought it was a statistic they may have collected, that's all.
Yeah, but you can tell with one of the guys.
Yeah, you're tapping in.
The storm moves in and keeps you in your tent for several days. Did you lose some of your food cache to ravens at Motorcycle Hill?
Yeah, you did. So just read the yes part.
You were forced to descend during a break in weather and do not summit.
Ah. See you guys at the bar.
At the road, thank you.
That's the point.